I'm Matt Hanna.
And this is Horror Hour with the Hannas.
Where we're going to talk about one of our favorite scary movies.
Woo! I've been so excited for this one from day one. Today we are talking about 2022's Barbarian. We know that this one has mixed opinions, so we're excited to tell you
why wrong.
Ours is correct. We are very much on the same page with this one, so get ready.
For the most part, I would say. Yeah. I do like it, though.
I think I like it a little more, but other than that, we're on the same page. So, Barbarian was written and directed by Zach Cregger. It's his solo directorial debut. He, co-directed things earlier in his career that he does not look back on fondly.
Yeah, can I talk about who he is really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I remember seeing his content on YouTube in, middle school because he was part of the comedy troupe, the Whitest Kids U'Know, along with Trevor Moore, who actually died within, I think, the past year, which was very sad.
Yeah.
But I remember watching a bunch of their stuff and then also watching his movie Miss March, which is pretty dog shit. But I in my young years watching that, probably when I was too young to be seeing Miss March. But I didn't realize it was him until probably months after we saw it. I was like, wait, I know this guy. The second I saw a picture of him. So the Whitest Kids U'Know, those videos are all still up. Very much worth a watch. They're still as ridiculous as I remember and still pretty funny.
Never watched him, so I went into this super blind. I knew who it was directed by, but I was like, I don't know that man.
Yeah, I had no idea it was him, so.
Yeah, very fun.
So I was very impressed, actually, knowing what I knew now, being oh, it was just that guy? I didn't realize he had this in him.
Yeah. Well, it was starring Georgina Campbell, Bill Skarsgård, and Justin Long, so some horror goats in there, which was very fun. Other than that, I'm going to save the background till after our summary because my fun facts are very tied to what the movie is about.
Okay. So are we going to do 15 seconds now?
Yeah, let's do our 15 seconds now.
Okay. Let me get the timer. You're going first.
I'm going first?
Yeah.
Okay.
I decided. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
And go.
Woman deals with vile men and the product of vile men and overall trash misogyny for 100 minutes.
Easy enough.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
All right, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Go.
Justin Long is a piece of shit. That's all I'm going to say.
None of
That's
these
what I get away from
the movie at all. So.
I know. This one, there's too many things that go on that I just had to make jokes. All right, so we ready for just full summary for everyone?
Yeah, go for it. All right,
before I go into that, I'm going to say that we're going to have trigger warnings for suicide and sexual assault in here. And just straight up, I'm going to use the harsh R word when describing it because, rape. I'm going to say rape. Sorry, YouTube censorships be damned. Because I think it's critical to not sugarcoat this because it is very critical to the characters that we label them as the pieces of shit they are. So,
yeah.
Cool. All right, we ready? So that'll throughout the whole episode, just trigger warning for that.
Mm-hmm.
But all right. Tess arrives at a rental house in a rundown Detroit neighborhood on the evening before a job interview. She finds it has been double booked and is already occupied by a man named Keith. Initially unnerved by Keith, Tess warms up to him and decides to stay the night while Keith sleeps on the sofa. Tess goes for an interview the next morning and is cautioned to stay on guard while in the neighborhood around the house, which is suffering heavy from urban decay. Returning to the house, she is chased inside by a homeless man who yells at her to leave. She accidentally locks herself in the basement and stumbles across a hidden corridor leading to a room with a camcorder, a stained mattress, a bucket, and a bloody handprint. Keith returns to the house, frees Tess from the basement, and investigates the hidden corridor. When he does not return, Tess follows him and finds a subterranean tunnel attached to the hidden corridor, where she finds Keith injured. While they argue about where to go, the pair are attacked by a naked, deformed woman who will be referred to as the Mother, who then kills Keith. Cut to black. 2 weeks later, the house owner, AJ, is fired from a television series over allegations that he raped his co-star, something that is confirmed in a conversation with his friend. Pressured to sell assets to pay his legal costs, AJ travels to Detroit to inspect the house before selling it. AJ finds the hidden tunnel and tries to measure it, believing it may increase the house's value. The Mother attacks AJ in the tunnel, and he falls into a hole where he meets Tess. Cut to black. Again. A flashback to 1980 shows Frank, the house's original owner, abducting women, raping them, and keeping them captive in the tunnels, where it is implied he rapes the offspring. In the present, the Mother locks Tess and AJ in a hole. Tess tells AJ that the Mother wants them to act as her children. When AJ doesn't comply with bottle feeding, he is dragged away by the Mother, who forcibly breastfeeds him. Tess uses the opportunity to escape the house with the help of Andre, the homeless man from earlier, who warns her that the mother will come after her at nightfall. With the mother distracted by Tess's escape, AJ finds a room which the mother refuses to approach. Inside, he finds a bedridden Frank and assumes him to be another victim of the mother. AJ assures Frank that he will call the police before finding evidence of Frank's crimes. Frank kills himself with a concealed revolver. Tess leads the police to the house, but they dismiss her story and leave as night falls. Tess breaks into the house, retrieves her car keys, and when the mother surfaces, Tess rams the mother with her car, seemingly killing her. Tess returns to the basement to rescue AJ. AJ, assuming her approaching footsteps are the mother's, mistakenly shoots her with Frank's gun. The two escape and find the mother has vanished. Tess and AJ then take shelter with Andre. Andre explains that the mother is a product of Frank's multi-generational incest with his victims. The mother bursts in, kills Andre, and chases Tess and AJ up the water tower. AJ loses his gun and pushes Tess off the water tower to save himself. The mother jumps after her and shields her from the fall. AJ finds Tess is still alive, but as he tries to rationalize his actions to Tess, the mother revives and gouges his eyes out, killing him. The mother attempts to comfort Tess, but she remorsefully shoots the mother dead with Frank's gun and limps away as the sun rises. And that's credits roll.
And then it plays a song that has the lyrics, "Be My Little Baby."
Yeah. It's
which was
funny credit song.
Yeah. Real
so
good.
This movie's fucked.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah. So I'm going to go into a little bit more background
Please
before
do,
we
because my
start talking
voice
about
hurts.
it. Yeah. So Zach Cregger had wrote this movie based off a book that he was reading, which we're going to talk about a little bit more when we get to themes, but just right off the bat, just know that he was inspired by a book called The Gift of Fear.
Which was written in like the 90s from what I saw.
Cregger, after writing, had reached out to multiple financiers, including A24 and Neon, but was rejected. So he was trying to sell this for like 2 years, and direct quote, he says, "I just kept hearing the same things. You can't introduce a character on page 50. No one wants to see anything about people in show business. We're following a rapist for 30 pages. That's just too gross." So, a lot of those issues, which are some of the things that people negatively take away from the movie, were barriers to getting the film made.
I know we're going to talk about this later, but it's so funny because like all of those things are what makes this movie actually stand out and not just be a run-of-the-mill horror. It like really changes it. So I understand because people don't like change and people don't like risks, but I feel like the risk-taking in those is what like makes this movie stand above a lot of others that came out in the past couple of years.
100% agree.
Sorry, that's frustrating.
So Zach Cregger agrees with us on that. He said when he was first writing the movie, Keith was actually the bad guy. And so when Tess went downstairs with him, he said he thought, okay, whatever he's going to do, we should probably do it now. But then I just had this moment where I was like, this sucks. Everyone's going to expect him to do something, but I can't think of anything that would fulfill what our imagination is. So he, kind of on the same page as us, was like, that doesn't work in like the long run length of this movie. That won't work. And he said then he was like, a big naked lady comes out, smashes his head into pieces. And now it was fun. I liked it, but then it was over. So then he thought it would be a 45-minute short film. But then he was like, the first chapter is all about a woman being hypervigilant. She's a detective. Her brain is working overtime to categorize behavior, to assess threat, asking, is this man a sexual predator? So if that is the DNA of Act 1, then Act 2 should be the inverse. So the opposite of a hypervigilant woman is a man with no awareness, and I thought of that chapter as a response. So that is where AJ comes into play.
This is such a cool... I didn't know we were going to get the writing process. This is very fun.
I thought that was so interesting.
Because she really is AJ is the opposite of her.
Yes. And then by the end of the movie, it's a moral test. He says she passes and he fails.
Yes, agreed.
100%.
Yeah.
When they were casting, Justin Long was the first person they went to for the role of AJ.
Makes total sense. You're going to typecast. There's a ton of typecasting used to subvert expectations in this movie.
I thought it was really interesting, too. I was, reading this long interview with him. And that wasn't actually, like, what he pictured for the character to begin with. But then, like, once he was like, no, I think it should be, like, just a normal dude. Then it was like, oh, Justin Long, yes. And same with Bill Skarsgård. Like, he didn't write the part thinking of this. But then it works so well that it's this guy that we associate with being one of the scariest horror villains, and then you're like, oh, he's just this sweet man, Keith.
Yeah, Skarsgård's such an inspired casting choice because you do have this mix of, like, he played Pennywise and he has kind of like a creepy air about him, but he's also like a handsome man and like seems very like nice. So when you have this woman with her brain working overtime, which is a lot about what The Gift of Fear is about, to put him in there makes our brains work overtime because we're also in her shoes and convinced like this is Bill Skarsgård, like something's got to be up. But like he has this nice exterior, and then I think it like scares us even more. Where with Justin Long, it's all douchebag, goofy exterior, and he's like an actual monster.
Yes.
In my eyes.
I think it's funny too with Justin Long because, like, the thing I've watched with him most recently is New Girl, and he is just this sweet little bumbling gunslinger. So to have this sweetie Petey and then throw him in and you get this, for me, that was also like a shock. It worked the same way as it did with casting of Bill Skarsgård for me. So, we've said we like the movie.
Yeah, I do. Oh, is that it on background? Okay.
Why you like movie?
So there's like a lot of things I like. I think I really want to focus right now on the filmmaking aspects of this. And really the script. I think the way that we kind of have these 3 acts that almost get completely separated is really cool and something that makes this stand out in a way where and it's honestly really impressive. Again, I didn't know like Cregger had this in him, where the style of the film changes 3 times completely. So like we get that first act with Tess and Keith, which is shot in a very like specific way, and then immediately cut to Justin Long, which is back to this weird like happy-go-lucky goofy, which then kind of starts to pull back in. But you basically, I was scared of the tunnels, right? I was very scared of the tunnels the first time. And then when Keith goes in there, we're familiar, and he also doesn't give a shit. So the way it's filmed, all of a sudden I'm not scared of the tunnels. And it's like it's crazy to see how just like camera placement, the person, a couple like little things you can do, the way you move the camera
you
can
mean when
really
AJ goes in?
When AJ goes in, it completely recontextualizes.
Yeah, because AJ goes in and he's just like tape measuring it up in there. And he's like, oh, rooms. And it's funny. Like, it's such a different tonal.
It's really neat how a filmmaker can just do that with a camera, really. And then lastly, you get to the cut back to the 80s with Frank, who is like the real monster of this whole movie. And it's now in 4:3 with this crazy fisheye lens, all like colored and bubbly, and like it has the nicest exterior looking and like the nicest backgrounds, but you're with the most terrifying like person in this, which then he goes and, opens a window of a woman's house pretending to be a, some kind of maintenance guy just so he can come back and kidnap her later. And when he goes down into the tunnels, they don't show it. The camera sits back and you just hear the screaming because the camera can't even show you what's like going on down there. It's like too far beyond what's allowed to be on camera, right? Like, and that's even scarier. So I think that is really, really neat. I think the performances are good. This movie is lit great. And I was watching it. I've been complaining about that a bunch. And I was like, oh my God, I can see everything. We're in the dark, but I can still see what I need to see. And it's not muddled mess. It's also,
like, just honestly, like, kind of brilliant how it's lit. Because the focus, again, even though they're in a dark tunnel, the characters are lit up. But they're lit up. The background isn't really, like, the tunnel itself isn't lit that well.
Yeah, so you have no idea what's out there.
So you don't know what's there. And you feel just as scared as her because you also can't see.
Yep. I agree. So I will say those are the technical aspects I really like. I'm sure there's more. I think, like I said, that the script also lends itself to that, and it's so unique and interesting because of that. And I also will say the first time I saw this, I did find it quite scary. On subsequent viewings, not as much. I think that, unfortunately, you know what's happening. I do find that this movie does not reward multiple viewings, unfortunately. But that first time in the theaters, I've said to Hannah, we saw it in theaters, and I tensed up so hard, like I thought I was going to pull a hamstring.
I think in the scare department, maybe it doesn't reward multiple viewings, but I think in terms of like the every other aspect of the movie rewards multiple viewings. I think
it's cool.
I still enjoyed it on my third watch, and I would give it the same, only like slightly lower on my third watch than I would have the first.
I also think I'd recommend it to like filmmakers, like aspiring filmmakers, on like how you can construct scenes and how you can move and place the camera to create different feelings even in the same environment with the same people. I think it's really cool.
When you mentioned the filming with Frank, I did look that up, like how they filmed that to give it like a different texture, color. They used a 12 millimeter lens, which is what's giving that fisheye.
Yep.
And we just swirled it around him. It really just makes him feel like an alien occupying our familiar suburban place. It seems menacing to me, and I liked it a lot. I liked it too, Zach.
Yeah.
Because it does feel menacing. It's like this asshole piece of shit in this bright, happy suburb.
To call him an asshole piece of shit is, like, not enough.
No.
I mean, he is, I consider him the Barbarian of the title Barbarian.
Yeah. Well, it's also because
they're on Barbary
Street. Yeah. But, yeah.
He's the Barbarian of Barbary Street.
Yes.
He is a horrific, like, beyond words, horrible person.
So, some of the things I like, so we talked about the lighting, how brilliant that is, and how the film style kind of changes depending on, like, who we're viewing. I think this movie has really fun cuts, too, whether it's cutting from this horrifying incident in the basement tunnel where Keith gets his head pushed in, and then it just cuts to AJ in a car, or even when it's AJ just in the house by himself, collecting potential weapons to bring to the basement, including a weak-ass knife and a flashlight. Like, just the way those things are cut, I think it enhances either the relief that you're feeling or the tension that you're feeling.
You go... Yeah, I never understand the complaints about, like, introducing this character 50 pages in. Because I've also heard people that don't like the movie with that complaint, but it's like, you just went through an extremely tense scene, and now you're getting the biggest, like, breath and sigh of relief, right, that you can possibly have. And with this character, they're like, oh, this is Justin Long, I like him. And then immediately they're like, boom, he's a rapist, bad person. And now you're, like, stuck with his ridiculousness, and he's also completely unself-aware. And running around telling his friends about how no, I didn't rape her. She just said no at first, and then, you know, I'm a persistent guy. Yeah. And he says it, and you're like, oh my god, now I'm like, he went from the monster of the mother to an actual monster.
Yeah, that's what I think is so interesting and, like, important, is we need this thematically.
Yes. I've been holding off talking about themes, because that is something I like.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
I mean, yeah, we'll get there. Like you said, though, I think it's so important to have this scene, because I was really ready to walk out of the fucking movie theater. Like, at this point, I was so stressed and so tense, and I needed that reprieve when I got it. I needed some, like, not that AJ's lighthearted, because he's not, because he's a rapist piece of shit, but because he's such a dick and such an idiot, there are things he says or does that are funny, and I needed that humor to survive this movie, frankly. And
I think it makes you more worried about, oh no, we're going to get thrown back in the basement at some point.
Yeah, because he's dumb. Yeah. Like, of course we're going to end up back in the basement.
We had no idea how he was connected at all at first, which we also did. We had no idea this cut was coming before seeing it, so when it does...
I mean, I knew he was in the movie, so I'm, like, sitting there like, where is Justin Long? Like, I see his name on all the press for this movie, and he's not in a single trailer that I've seen so far. Because we hadn't seen the Justin Long specific trailer until after we saw the movie.
I didn't watch a single trailer for this.
Yes, you did. Because we saw it in theaters for something else.
Oh, okay, never mind then.
Maybe you went to the bathroom during it, though. Because I saw trailers, but Justin Long was not in any of the ones I saw. But I knew he was, so I'm, like, sitting there like, where's Justin Long? And then the cut to Justin Long, I was like, oh my god, here he is. And he sucks.
Yep.
Him at the house when he is Googling, can underground rooms be listed as square footage? And it's like, no.
But
and then he finds another one that's like, but you can list it for blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yes, bitch. And like, the basement is sketchy. Like, he has recognized in his way
he looks at the camcorder in the bed and bloody,
and he's like,
the rape
gross.
room, whatever it is, the snuff film room.
He literally acknowledges it's gross, but now he has a good reason for it to be there. So he's like, oh, great. Now I will go down there. I won't be fazed by this at all. And he's literally just, like, measuring around stuff. At one point he goes, ugh, but, like, that's about it.
Completely unself-aware.
Unself-aware
at all. That's his entire personality, is being unself-aware.
So then when the tape measure is pulled... That is a brilliant fucking reveal for him, like for the mother to be in there when she pulls the tape measure out of his hand.
After not being worried at all, because he's just like worried about his own self-preservation or getting his own money.
And then there are some really fun shots with him like holding out the knife and flashlight, and it's kind of like from his point of view, like a first-person shooter game.
Oh, yeah.
It's just super fun.
Yep.
Just another fun filming trick that I really appreciate. But I did want to talk specifically about some of the dialogue that he says, because I think it's important. And yes, we will talk about him a lot during the theme section too, but he says, "We did fuck, but she took some convincing. In the beginning, she was like, no, whatever. But she came around."
Yeah, he's awful.
And I just think a lot of the dialogue that he has is so poignant. Like, it's so well written for us to fully acknowledge, like, this is a piece of shit. He is the standard guy. Like, if you think about, like, the stereotypical, well, not stereotypical because this happens, but, like, frat guy that, like, hooks up with a girl and is like, well, she wanted it. And we hear this all the time, right? When people go to trial, that women were like, I started by saying no, but, like, what was that doing? I was still getting assaulted.
He was also in a position of power because it was his show that she brought him on, or he brought her on.
He recommended her. Yeah. So he's basically like this bitch. Like, I gave you the opportunity, and now you're just, like, throwing me away. He also says later, people can have different versions of the same thing. I'm actually not mad at you about it.
Oh, yeah, when he calls her?
Yeah, when he's drunk calls her. Like, he very much, he knows he's a bad person.
Well, we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But
it's all just so smart.
It is good. I wanted to say one more thing I missed in my notes was while we were watching this, we were with Matt, who's been on our show, and I remember him saying he was like giggling every time another door opened to a further corridor. That's like when he was really like locked in, was like, oh my God, there's another door that goes deeper in the basement. And I also felt that way where it was like, I had no idea there was going to be these massive tunnels, and it's such an amazing just like reveal. Like, you have the one secret door, and you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. They've got this, like, scary snuff film room, and then all of a sudden, another door with just stairs that look like they go on infinitely downward.
Yep. Well, we didn't even talk about our, like, first experience with this. It was the three of us.
That's what I saw
in theaters. Yeah. And we came out of that theater, and we were all like, yeah! We were, like, hyped. We sat in the parking lot of AMC for 45 minutes.
And talked about it. Yeah.
How much we liked it. I also think that the intro scene, intro 45 minutes with Tess and Keith is also so fun because of how it is framed to be so sinister until they accept their friendship.
But you still don't ever know. You still are only getting like surface look at both of them. You still don't know who they are underneath, which is, I think, part of the point with Justin Long is you see this exterior, but like what's going on underneath is more sinister. So we'll never really know with Bill Skarsgård Keith, right? We think we know.
It's such a cute little meet cute.
Yep. All right. Do you want to talk about, is there anything you didn't like?
No.
Okay, I'll say what I didn't like. I think, it is actually kind of hard to talk about what I didn't like. I basically said it. I think it's not as scary on second viewings. I really like it that first time. I don't find it as like interesting. Beyond that, I do think it's like good. It's not like a perfect film by any means, but I do think it's a lot of fun and very unique. I don't know if I have too many complaints really. Maybe it does get a little too goofy by the end with like the mother jumping off the water tower, but I kind of like the acceleration and just how like over the top and absurd it gets.
Well, it's also AJ deserves it, and like Cregger said, it becomes like a moral test. He failed, so he dies.
Oh, I agree with that part.
And she passes.
I more just mean it's like the mother breaking the wall down, and the guy's like, she's never come in here before, and breaks the wall down and rips the arm off. I think it gets a little, maybe hammy is the word.
Yeah.
And that would be my only complaint. But I don't really know how you fix it, so I don't want to complain too much. I just want to, sometimes you got to just, don't complain. You just ask yourself why the director did what they did, because usually there's a good answer. Mm-hmm. All right. You want to talk about some themes?
Yeah. So,
all right, tell me about the Gift of Fear.
Yeah. Cregger said, there was a chapter in the book that was really primarily directed towards women. And he was encouraging women to pay attention to these little minor red flags that men can give off in day-to-day situations. And they can be very innocuous things that you might not notice. Things like complimenting you when it's not necessarily appropriate, doing a favor for you that you didn't ask for, or touching in a non-sexual way that's not initiated by you, obviously. These are little things that seemingly don't matter, but they should stand out in your mind because they absolutely do matter. It's important to pay attention to these little red flags because it will help you identify potential threats. I didn't want to write a movie, I just wanted to write a scene where I can load as many of those tiny little red flags into an interaction as possible. So that was just an exercise for me to do late at night in my garage. And so I was like, a double booked Airbnb and I'll make this guy really nice, but I will give him a ton of these little triggers. And
so that's what the entire first act comes from.
Yes.
And then that's why he was like, well, I got to do something beyond. And that's where the whole Justin Long idea came from. Very cool.
So talking about the themes, it's obviously very largely about female anxiety.
Yeah, I would say so.
The stress of being a woman. Like he said, the first act is very much like these tiny things that all put together is creepy as fuck. So, like, already, it's creepy as shit for you to roll up to an Airbnb and someone's already staying there. Yeah. It doesn't really matter what gender you are, that's scary. But it's obviously scarier for her walking into this situation as the small woman. And she acknowledges that, like, they do kind of have a talk about that, about men versus women being in their situation. Like, if he had come to the door, she would have been like, get the fuck out. And the only reason she went in is because she had literally no other option. Yep. So right off the bat, like, we're getting that conversation. We're getting these little moments where he makes her tea and the camera looms on the
and
tea.
She's scared it's drugged or something.
She won't drink it because, like, it could be drugged.
There's also the point that he is becoming self-aware that he's coming off as creepy, so he's getting more anxious and trying to...
Yeah, so then he waits to open wine, and he tells her, I thought I'd wait so you could see me open it, which then comes across as creepy, because it's like, why does that matter?
Why do I have to acknowledge it?
But
there's all things that we've all really felt before.
But especially as a woman, like, we feel that way more than men when
No, but I'm saying as a man, we feel the part that Keith feels, I think, as well, which is I'm not trying to be creepy, but by calling light to I'm not doing this thing, they're like, why would you even call light to it? Yeah. But by not calling light to it, then they might think that you are being creepy or you are have ill intentions. Mm-hmm. And it's, like, really hard for anybody, and I think we'll see this throughout the movie, to show their intentions to another person. It's like you can't really prove your intentions in any way. Mm-hmm. You're only ever going to see like what you can see. Mm-hmm. And even if you see it, you're not really certain of somebody's intentions. Yeah. Which is cool. I mean, but I think it's fun from both sides to be that how do I convey what my intentions are and show that I'm not a threat? And then also from the other end, how can I figure out if this person is a threat? Yeah. And no one will ever know. And that's every interaction you have every day is like, you're never really going to know that person's interior. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, and then we get Tess, like, obviously locking her bedroom door because she's like, who the fuck's coming in here? She doesn't want to use his sheets because, like, one, maybe just kind of gross, but also, like, what the fuck were you doing in there, bro? Like, I don't want your sheets. So, like, there's all these small moments. Even, like, she's, like, nervous to, like, go to the bathroom, like, to leave the room with him. Yep. Like, what could he be doing in the room by himself when I walk to the bathroom? So, you know, there's all of those little moments about, like, how, as a woman, that's scary as shit. We then get to the next day, where that homeless guy chases her. Andre. He's chasing her to say, get the fuck out of the house, it's scary in there, and you're gonna get kidnapped. But obviously, she's a woman having a man chase her. Yep. Of course she's fucking scared.
It's also, the intentions thing is like he looks scary because he's a homeless man, right? And he's screaming, right? The point is his exterior is not what his actual intentions are. Mm-hmm. But she doesn't know any better, so she runs in. Yeah. Right. And you see that, I think, later as well with Frank, who shows up, although that actor is creepy and has like played scary characters before, he shows up as a helpful hand. Hey, we're checking out this thing in your house, walks into a woman's house, goes in the bathroom, turns the sink on, unlocks the window, and is like, everything's good, and leaves, which is an amazing moment of show don't tell of like, he's going to come back and then kidnap her. Yeah. But it's, again, you don't know just like looking at him what he is. And then...
Well, Sorry, go ahead. I was doing this chronologically, so you skipped a lot of time. Okay, go ahead. But then, obviously, she goes down the basement. Basements are kind of scary, period. But then she opens up this fucking tunnel, her immediate thought is no. Like, she literally goes, fuck no, and then goes and sits down. And then, of course, like, she's stuck in there how long? It makes sense that your curiosity would get to the better of you. But she's a little genius and sets out that light thing. But again, it's just like this other thing where it's like, I shouldn't go in there. That's really scary. It's like all of these signs that something's wrong. She sees the bucket and the camera, and of course she's like, get me the fuck out of here. But then it's like we said, she talks to Keith, and Keith's like, I didn't see that.
So I have to go look at it.
So, like, I have to go look at it. But if you think about it, like, a woman wouldn't do that.
It is. Like, that's not true. That it is more likely, as she kind of says, men kind of go bumbling through life, and women are left to clean it up. His kind of goes, or they have to like tiptoe, where men kind of just are welcome anywhere and can like barge into any space, or at least willing to barge into any space. So for him, he's like, I got to see it. Where that is,
I just feel like if I were in that situation, like I'm the one who walks in, like there is no way in fucking hell I'd be gung-ho.
No, I mean, I'd be curious if you're telling me there's a...
If you told me there's a video camera,
I'd
a dirty bucket, and a fucking dirty mattress on the floor in a surprising...
I know, that's crazy. I want to see the secret room. That's fucking nuts. I would definitely have to go look.
All right, well then
I might die.
You'd get Keithed.
Yep. But I know, I get why. It makes sense. Our brains are just like that.
Also... And I guess maybe this is thematically different, but since I'm kind of talking about it in chronological order, the fact that she also has called the police because she got chased by this homeless man. They don't do shit, because police don't do shit.
They don't show
a lot
up,
of times. Yeah, they literally don't show up, and they're like, we're not coming. Like, unless there's a gunshot, we're not coming.
Yeah.
I have called the police twice in the last year, and they didn't come. So, in the same week, actually. They did not come either time. And the one time I did call the police, because I had to, because I was in a car accident, it took over an hour and a half of me sitting outside in December. So...
Useless.
Yeah, useless.
They showed to be useless later, too.
But then, I've seen people complain, like, Tess, why did you go in after him? It's like, well...
What was she supposed to do?
What was she gonna fucking do? He's yelling, help me, and the police aren't gonna come do anything.
Yeah. She was just trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, and you can't really fault her for that.
I want to talk about more exteriors and interiors, since that's our theme right now. That was my big theme, is that you can't... Danger has no, like, specific face, right? There's no specific look to danger, because we see Justin Long, who is dangerous, right? But you don't know that from looking at his exterior. He's got this, like, goofy appeal. You look at this house, which among a dangerous-looking neighborhood is this nice little piece of house. But you know what's underneath that is, like, the most disgusting human you've ever met. Then you have that scene where Tess is looking disheveled and goes to the police and is like, we need help. And they just ignore her because they think that because of the way she looks, that she's, like, either a homeless person or on something. And they just, like, don't give a shit and don't help her at all. And so that's what I was thinking. And then maybe even with the mother, who is dangerous looking and might do dangerous things, she's really, like, the biggest victim of the movie.
100%. But yeah, in a lot of the ways, like you listed, it's very much about how we process those signs around us. But I think it's very clear, like, listen to your gut. And we as women... that gut is functioning like that for a reason, right? Because we are, in a lot of ways, we have to think that way. We are more fragile in some ways. We are, like, the victim more often than a male might be, just looking statistically. So...
And men, maybe we need to embrace the fear a little bit more too, because clearly we do just barge through things and put ourselves in danger. Yeah,
AJ. And fucking Keith.
AJ has just no awareness about anything, though. So Keith, yeah, probably should have known better.
And so when people say that the momentum stops with Justin Long, like we said, one, you kind of need the momentum to stop because it's stressful shit. But two, he is also a threat to women. He's just a different type of threat than Keith might have been. the type of threat that Justin Long is that guy who doesn't realize that he's a piece of shit.
Yes.
And that he does horrible things and still can't take accountability for that.
And they try to... Sorry, go ahead.
We see that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, how many people will say that she said no, but then they convinced her.
Yeah.
Like, that is not new.
I even think this one...
real people.
This one seems even worse than him just being a sex pest. At least I think it's implied to be more than just that he pestered her, you know? I definitely see it.
No, he raped her.
Yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think what it sounds like to me is that she gave up saying no. Because there was no fucking point.
Yeah.
Which happens all the time, too. And then they'll use that in, like, a court and be like, well, you stopped saying no or you didn't say no. But it's like, then I thought you would hurt me or kill me. Like, what was I supposed to fucking do?
Yep.
You were gonna rape me regardless.
And I think this all culminates in a scene where... Oh, two different scenes. But the first one is where he's face-to-face with Frank. And sees Frank's videos, because Frank has these disgusting VHS tapes, like, labeled Screamer, Bleeder, things like that, of all the women that he's tormented. And Justin Long's like, you're disgusting, and, like, looks at him, freaks out. And it's so funny, because it's like, my guy, you guys are on... I don't want to say they're on equal footing, because what Frank did is worse, but, like Justin,
he's not murdering people,
you have that capability within you as well, right? Like,
you've hit step one of what Frank's doing.
Yes. And I enjoy that he doesn't have the self-awareness to...
acknowledge that what he's done is part of what's on that video.
Yes. And then Frank actually kind of gets out easy by shooting himself. But then you find Justin Long at the watchtower, right? And
Well, I think you can also say that, like, that does happen for a lot of men. A lot of times they do these horrible things and they get off easy.
Yep. True.
I mean, think about how many men who we know assaulted people and still have a career.
Yeah. But I was going to say, so then Justin Long gets on the watchtower and then is like, he admits, right, that he is a bad person and has done these things.
His direct quote is, I don't know if I'm a bad person. I might be. But I might be a good person who did a bad thing. And then he basically says he's deciding to fix it. That he's going to fix it and be only a good person.
And then once his life is under threat again, he just tosses Tess off the top of the watchtower to save his own skin.
And when he realizes she's not dead, he says, you started to slip. There's nothing I could do. He just kind of says all of this nonsense shit to try and justify that he's still a piece of shit person.
And it's the same kind of logic he probably used when it came to, like, the actual rape, right? It's well, you did this or you did this. And he always puts the blame on the victim instead of on himself. And right, so he tosses her and then tries to blame her for him tossing her off the watchtower and putting her life in danger. And I really enjoy that we get this fake redemption, because at first I was like, oh my God, are they going to redeem the rapist? Like, please. Because you've seen that. Yeah. There are way too many bad redemptions in movies for characters like this. And no, he gets his fucking brain squashed in by the mother who's still alive, just trying to protect her baby and Tess. Yep. And he gets exactly what he deserves. And I appreciate that a lot. And then I think we get to that very heartbreaking scene with the mother and Tess.
Yeah.
Where I think once again we see, that the mother is really the victim of this story more than anybody.
Like, she's just trying to raise her baby.
And it's almost, you have to almost read it like Tess kind of does a mercy killing, if there's a such thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like she can't really go on, like, what's going to happen? Her go to jail for killing these people.
And not understand it because she's... Yeah.
And it's very sad. She tries to take Tess back and just, like, trying to protect her baby as she sees her as her baby. And Tess kind of has to put the bullet.
And Tess obviously did have her life threatened by this person. Yeah. So,
it's very sad. But then she has to kind of, like, she has to kill her at the end. It's just what makes sense. And it's sad because she doesn't, the mother does not get her, like, justice. But as you said before, a lot of people don't. A lot of victims don't get their justice.
Yeah.
And I do find that very sad. And I think thematically poignant, as we say.
So when we're, like, trying to tie together all of the, like, female anxiety, I think that's why there are the whole 3 acts very deliberately. 1 act of all of these small signs. Act 2 of AJ, this guy who represents a lot of people in this society who don't realize that they're a fucking problem. And then part 3, who's, like, the most... I guess, not stereotypical version of it, but, like, when you think of a bad person who hurts women, I think going to serial killer who abducts, tortures, and rapes women. The mother is
afraid of still, even though he's bedridden. There's that scene where AJ backs up to the door and the mother doesn't pursue him because she's still probably facing abuse from from Frank, which is crazy because she is like the monster, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I would argue, even if people think the story gets like dumb or that it ruins the momentum, that's why that's there. Yeah. And that's why that's important.
I had my note here too that says if you walk away from this movie calling the mother the creature or the monster, the barbarian, which I just did. I did air quotes when I said it the first time now, that I think you kind of missed the point. Of it all. Like Frank is the monster.
Like it's giving creature feature until you meet Frank.
That was what I was thinking though. It is a creature feature in that a lot of creature features, the monster, in quotes again, is sympathetic. It is like just an animal. Yeah. Yeah, Frankenstein.
Like the creature.
Yes. Or Jaws, I was saying. Like it is supposed to just a fish. Just a big fish. Until the fourth one when it's telepathically linked to the Brody family.
Yeah. A masterpiece.
And I think it really nails that. And overall, it is fun. Horror movies it's hard to make a horror movie. A lot of people say horror movies should really only be short form, and that's like the best way. So when you have the movie completely change tone 3 or 4 times, I think it really like works, especially when you can tie it all together the way it does. Mm-hmm. Cool ass movie.
I like it so much. So obviously we spent like 20 minutes talking about the anxiety of being a woman and what those signs look like and all that. And I think it's pretty clear that is the main theme. I think you get like touches of other themes, but they just aren't explained or explored as thoroughly, which I have seen as a complaint about this, but it's also like,
viewers are dumb and viewers are dumb.
Expect that to be explored. So one of those things that I think is lightly touched on, but not as fleshed out as it could be, is the economic inequality subplot of Detroit.
Okay, so I'm going to tie this back because I think so. My point of talking about that we can't ever understand a person's true motivations ties back to the gift of fear, which is like female anxiety, but also just the gift of fear. Like I don't think it has to be gendered, although it is in this movie. I think the inequality of Detroit is meant to show that exterior as this dangerous, scary exterior while ignoring the interior of like, what has led to this? What leads to crime? And really it is economic inequality is what leads to crime and leads to the scary looking, but you never really ask like why. And that's important to always ask that. I always like to go up the why, how ladder, as I call it. You got to keep asking why beyond to understand someone's true like interior.
I 100% agree with that. And I did see in that one of the like 2 interviews with Cregger that I read before the episode, he basically said that, like, he was like, I wasn't trying to make a movie explicitly about income inequality, which is why I didn't, but it is so central to that theme, the way it ties in, that, like, I don't think it needs to be more explored.
No,
like you said, that is doing what it's supposed to do. Yep. It has its function in the film. One of the other themes is obviously fuck the police.
Oh, yeah.
But again, that's not the intention. It's how it ties into the theme and how we use, how image
Here, I got impacts. You again. It's image again. Police they wear these, outfits, these uniforms to seem like, good people. Although, I mean, some of them wear the BDSM bondage outfits, specifically those horse cops. But, but like they're a danger. Like police, in my opinion, are like, as a whole construct, dangerous.
Well, they were dangerous to test in this movie.
And they were dangerous to test. But I'm just saying outside of the movie.
Well, yeah, no, I agree.
They're dangerous, but have this facade of, like, helpful, protect, and serve when really, like, they aren't even held to that standard. Mm-hmm. I think that... And again, yeah, they're not helpful to Tess in this. They just ignore her cries, even though they're supposed to protect and serve, as their title says. But they don't. And I think you see that all the time, that they don't. It all comes back. It all comes to the same idea of interior and exterior and how that leads to this art of fear. Mm-hmm.
Do you have any hot takes about this movie?
Hot takes? Oh, I don't know. I talked so much about this movie that my brain hurt.
I don't know if you said any hot takes necessarily, but...
Or at least
not to me. I guess it is to some people. Yeah, it is a hot take to say it's good. My hot take would be that, I don't know if it's a hot take, but it's that it's the best horror of 2022.
I don't know.
To a lot of people, that would be a hot take.
When did Nope come out? Did Nope come out in 2022? You cannot say this is better than Nope.
Bruh. To me, that's why it's a hot take.
That is a hot take.
To me, it is.
Skinamarink came out in 2022?
I think Skinamarink had its wide release in 2023.
All right, fine. It's good. I think that is definitely a hot take. What's my hot take? I don't got a hot take for this one.
2022 was a really good year for horror thrillers.
Clearly.
So I know that's why it's a hot take.
All right, you got any terrible Twitter takes?
Of course I do.
Good.
Terrible take corner. The first 42 minutes of Barbarian is my favorite half of a horror movie I've seen in decades, maybe forever. Then Justin Long shows up, and the movie gets ruined.
Then you just wanted the short movie. You just wanted a worse movie. Did you want 42 more minutes of just that? It's not gonna work. This shit blows my mind.
Media literacy.
I hate it's. I don't even know. It's not even media literacy. I'm gonna get mad, but people they don't ever ask why did a director do things. They just immediately go, "Is he stupid?" That's the first thing. The first thing everyone goes to is they're dumb instead of saying why. Ask why. Look, fucking have a conversation with the movie. Think about the movie. Don't just write something off. Oh, Justin Long showed up. The movie changes. Dumb. It blows my mind that we never just try to think, instead of saying that was dumb, why not say that was interesting? I wouldn't have done it that way. Is there a deeper meaning behind maybe why the director chose to do that? No, we're so fucking stupid. Instead, we just go to Twitter and write dumb shit like that. It kills me.
Friend of the pod, actor Matt Dalton, said to me over a text when we were talking about this movie, "You cannot make an entire movie that is constant with the opening of Barbarian. That movie would be so dark and suspenseful that it would be literally unwatchable."
Agreed. Or you would just run out of steam and you'd be bored.
What the fuck would happen after that?
Yeah,
there's enough movies that kind of do that.
And they run out of steam.
This chase sequence monster thing. What else would there be to it? It would be, and it wouldn't be different.
It would just be a run of the mill movie that nobody talks about. And so that, it's fine. You can dislike it. I'm fine with you disliking it. Dislike it for good reasons.
I'm going to at least give them points for saying the first 42 minutes of Barbarian is my favorite half of a horror movie I've seen in decades, maybe forever. Because I do think that is genius, but I think the whole thing ties together purposefully.
Yes, I agree. They just want the movie to end after 42 minutes. It's fine. Stop watching it for 42 minutes.
Well, and Cregger thought about making it a short film because he knew if this is all I'm doing, it has to end in 40 minutes.
I agree. Yeah, you can't. It would just have to end there. It couldn't just keep going.
He knew.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
My other terrible take, which might make you more mad.
Oh, boy.
What movie benefits so much from going in blind that it's not worth watching if you've read a synopsis? This person responded, "It's probably something like Barbarian, a movie that is pretty thin without the fizzy high of that plot twist."
Okay, I understand that criticism slightly more. I do think that the plot twist and the framing of the movie that first time is pretty impeccable, would be the word I would use, and really does elevate it. I don't think it, and I did say that I think subsequent viewings, this movie isn't
it's not as scary.
Good, as scary.
But I think it's as good.
I still think it hits all the themes. I think it's still very fun, and I really still enjoy it a lot. I don't hate that criticism as much, but I would say to call it thin.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a horror movie.
Yeah, I will fight back and say I don't think it's a thin movie without that because it's doing so much outside of that. That is why it's so important that we have Act 2 with AJ and Act 3 with Frank.
Yeah.
That's why those scenes are so important.
I'm trying to think about...
Thematically, you need more than that beginning sequence. And it doesn't make it thin just because there's a crazy plot twist and then it does something else.
Thin is a weird way to describe a movie because every viewer is so different and is going to take away different things. And I think the average viewer doesn't really take away themes from movies very well. I think that's what we've seen, right?
Well, that's why we have this podcast.
That's why this podcast, because we want to try to enlighten. I don't want to say we're trying to teach people, but we want to talk about the themes and try to ask the deeper meaning. What was the filmmaker thinking? What were they trying to do? But I think a lot of the average moviegoer goes to the theater once a year, right? And watches a movie and goes, I liked it. Mm-hmm. I didn't like it. And that's it. That's the most that they interact with it. So to call it thin, this movie might be thick to the average viewer. and maybe thin to somebody who is more of like a cinephile or someone that really like digs into it. I don't know. I think it works.
I'm just here to say that this podcast is for you, Mrs. Gallagher.
Is that your English teacher?
She was one of them.
Hell yeah. So she led you down this?
I'm going to give it to her. I'm going to give it to Mr. Jans.
Miss Cups. Me.
Thank you.
Or Mrs. Cups, I can't remember.
Miss Gallagher's told me that she's listened to it, so that's why she deserved her most special shout out.
I had my English teacher on Twitter. I could send this to her.
What if they listen to this episode and they're like, oh, but I actually don't agree with what you're
saying.
No,
whatever. There's plenty of other episodes they can listen. Don't tell me my Nightmare Before Christmas episode isn't fantastic, all right? I just said like it wasn't three of us.
Yeah, like there weren't three of us.
I'm sorry. I thought I made something out of nothing with the analysis in that movie, so.
Maybe you made too much.
Too much. Well, that was the point. It was definitely like, how can I was flexing the English class brain where you read something and you're like, I got nothing.
When you have to have a discussion and you get graded if you say something and someone's like, I think her jacket was blue because she was feeling blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no, she was just wearing a blue coat. It was a blue coat.
Sometimes that is true though. And this one, I think I made a whole new interpretation of the movie. So
I think you blue coated it. Anyway, favorite scene?
Oh boy.
I mean,
shit. I don't know.
I think it would be crazy to not. Fuck. I was gonna say it's crazy to not give it to, and then I was like, no, I have another one.
All right, pick yours.
I have a lot. I think both of my favorite scenes would involve the tunnel. I think it's scary as shit the first time you watch it when Tess is going down after him and after Keith. Mm-hmm. And it's dark and it's shot so well, and she is like, Keith, and it just keeps going and going and going and going, and you're so tense, and then Keith pops out of nowhere, and it's like, something bit me. Like, that is incredible.
It's really scary when he comes crawling on the floor.
That's where I screamed this time. And I was like, I knew it happened. Why did I scream?
The construction of that film, the way I see it, is that you scream when Keith rolls up, and then you're like, oh, okay,
it's just
safety.
Keith.
And then they catch you off guard with the mother running out next. Not with the something bit me, with the mother running out, and now the jump scare works because you already had it. You're off guard now, and then you get double hit. And I think it's a really well constructed scare. So that's why you like that scene.
I love that scene. That's the scene when we saw this in theaters.
You almost left.
Well, I was threatening to leave, but it would have been just as scary walking out of that and sitting in the hallway by myself than it was watching the movie. But I stretched out the neck of my sweatshirt because I was trying to hide under it, and it wasn't working very well.
That was probably the hamstring pull for me.
Yeah.
It was there.
My other favorite scene is AJ going through the tunnel because he's...
Oh, I thought you were just going to be him singing in the car.
No, it's... I do love AJ singing in the car and then getting the call that his career is over because he's a fuck.
Yep.
But no, I love AJ and his tape measure going through the tunnel. And like you said earlier, experiencing this from a totally different, like, emotional place. And then the tape measure is being stolen from him, and then his freak out. Like, I think is so good.
It's a good scene. All right, I got mine.
Yeah.
Mine is going to be the entire 1980s section of the movie.
Damn.
I think I really like the way it looks. I think that it's actually probably the most real-life scary scene, especially the idea of this guy just being like, I'm here to help. I'm here to check this thing, goes in the house, unlocks the window, and is this, like, great show-don't-tell moment of, like, he's going to go and kidnap her. And then to just have us hear the screams and seeing the shovels and the chemicals he uses as he is heading down into his, like, torture basement is very, very scary in a, like, real sense. Not like I'm jumping at the movie, but just the thought of it is disgusting.
Did we mention that the reason we're seeing Frank at the grocery store is because he's buying things for his incoming baby?
Yeah, we don't know which one. If it's the mother or the mother's mother or the mother's mother's mother.
Or like some other girl's baby, and we don't know how many times he's done this, if this is his first baby. To me, it kind of seems like it might be the first baby, but like maybe he's just an asshole, just didn't do anything for the previous babies. Like, who gives a shit about that? But it's fucking horrifying. Yeah.
It's very scary. So I'd have to say I think that is just a really cool and well-crafted scene, and it's jarring the way it's cut into there, and I like it.
So Matt, I think it's time for ratings. I'm going to say we polled a couple people before recording the episode. one of which was Matt Dalton, who we saw the movie with, and 2 other people were just like horror aficionados that actually saw the movie on our recommendation. One person gave it a 9.5.
Okay.
And said, there's nothing wrong with this movie. Another person gave it a 1, which
Boo.
This episode was for them to hopefully change their mind.
Sorry if I was
mean. Make them
mean.
watch it again.
I wasn't talking about you when I was getting mad about the Twitter take. That was solely about that Twitter person.
He is mad at you, though.
No. Listen to this episode and then decide if you still dislike it. And then we can talk.
And we also polled Matt, who we saw this with, and he gave it a 9.
Okay.
And said, I love it. Yeah, direct message was 9 out of 10. I loved it.
Hell yeah.
So
all right.
Where do you put it?
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
What the fuck?
That's good. An 8's good. I don't think I think upon rewatch, I don't enjoy it as much, but I still think it's very good. And I think it does a lot of great things. Yeah. But like, again, my scale is going to be based off of other movies I've seen, and it's not on the level of 9s that I've seen. And it's definitely not a 10 of what I've seen. But it's still very good. I hope Zach Cregger makes more movies. An 8 is good. I don't know why you get mad about that. That's a crazy reaction to an 8. Okay, what are you giving it?
A 9.6.
Why not just give it a 10 at that point?
Because it's not a 10.
Have you given anything a 10?
No.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't think I will.
It's a 10 for you.
I love this movie.
Take that as a 10 for Hannah. Yeah,
but
I
it did scare me a lot less on the rewatch, and it isn't typically what I think I look for in horror movies, so it is kind of like, and I think that's why I also feel inclined to like praise it more, because it just like, I would say, like The Witch is what I want from my horror movie, and this is not that. But yeah, I quite like this movie.
I do too.
Don't really understand people who hate it. I still don't.
Call in. We still gotta get the hotline.
Yeah, send me an email and I'll read your email.
What's our email?
On air.
horrorhourhannahs@gmail.com.
Yes.
That's what it is.
We can put it in the
send us an
caption
email.
Too. Send us an email. Send us a DM on the socials. We'll gladly read.
Zach Cregger, if you want to come talk about this movie or maybe your second movie, we'd love to have you on. Yeah,
that would be amazing. That would make my life.
You know, it's funny. In my head, I was like, of any famous person we could have on, for some reason, I was like, he'd be the most likely. Jordan Peele's not coming on, unfortunately. But Zach Cregger, I could see it.
He's a busy man.
Funny. All right. Is that anything else you want to say? Watch this movie. I don't really care. I'm tired. I'm worn out talking about this.
You should watch this movie. Yeah. I mean, that's why how many people watched it after we saw it, because I was like, you need to watch this movie.
What was the consensus on most of the people that saw it on your recommendation? Like, beyond, like, did everyone give you like a, yeah, I'm glad I saw that?
Everyone but the 1 out of 10.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
So go see it. Hannah says see it. All right. We good here?
Well, obviously I am Hannah.
I'm Matt Hannah.
Thanks
and I'm tired.
Listening.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Horror Hour with the Hannahs. Make sure to listen to future episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you can find podcasts. You can follow us at Horror Hour with the Hannahs on TikTok and Instagram for more content. If you like the podcast, please follow and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app. Happy hauntings!